Welcome to the In the Middle podcast, a podcast where we talk about every avenue of life because life really takes place in the middle, not the beginning, not the end. How do we navigate the middle?
Hey, welcome back.
Yes.
Episode 3 of In the Middle.
In the middle. I'm
How you
nervous.
doing?
I'm nervous. I'm just going to tell you,
Why?
I'm nervous because I know what we're going to talk about, but I have no clue what we're going to talk about. And I'm just aware that some of the things I may say, I may have to correct.
No.
But we'll see.
You're a parent. Everybody's a parent. I mean, like, we can't put, I will say it's hard when being a kid that you put your parent on a pedestal and then sometimes you can put your parent on a pedestal and they can, and that's where a lot of maybe, especially people around me or my community around me can be angry at the decisions that they made, but they were doing the best that they can. Just hard to, when you become a parent, it's a realization that you kind of come back around to, wow, they were really just doing the best that they could with what they had sometimes.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I'm going to be winging it today, but
Yeah.
I think parenting is winging it.
yeah, absolutely.
You're
Absolutely.
on the fly.
We've talked about that just with even other
On
topics.
the fly. Yeah.
20s, 30s, 50s, yeah.
Fly.
Okay. Anything else before we get into it? Any other updates? Life good?
Yeah, I don't mind sharing. My dad got diagnosed with cancer last week.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So that's kind of there, out of nowhere. So we'll see. But I'm going England visiting in a few weeks. So, yeah.
Okay.
So it's there.
Okay. I'm sorry to hear about
Yeah,
that.
thanks. But
If you got a moment, just think about Des and his dad, out there if you're listening.
Good.
Yeah. Okay. That's a hard transition.
yeah, no,
I'm
yeah,
trying
it's
to
good,
transition
but
from
it's
that.
all right. It's
Yeah.
real.
Yeah. Okay. Part of life in the middle.
Yep.
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 Okay. Tensions have been our episodes. We're talking about argumentative or just realities on both sides and how to live life in the middle. How do you do that well? Today's tension is sheltered versus unsheltered. And that can be growing up. That can be currently. We're going to talk about what it is to be a sheltered child versus an unsheltered child. We're just going to go into the gambit. What does God say about that? And again, you guys know kind of where I stand on this. I'm just going to push a little bit. So getting into it, what would be what I've looked up again, and everybody can look up, but kind of my general consensus of what a sheltered child would be is a lack of exposure to diversity and different perspectives, which can make it more difficult to relate to and understand people from a different background. Difficulties developing independence, problem-solving skills, and the ability to navigate challenges on one's own. So that's more of a worldly perspective of a sheltered child. What would you say a biblical perspective of a sheltered child is?
Ditto.
The same thing.
I think there's a lot there. Depends on what we mean by the word sheltered, because some parents may go, no, I want to protect. So I think there's something very different there. I think maybe the biblical perspective is, no, we are called to protect our young. We want to help them strengthen and at the right time, let them leave the nest and go. And so the tension's going to be in where is the line on protecting and equipping? Where is the line on preserving?
Okay, so we're in a day and age right now that looks very different from maybe you growing up or someone or where kids are growing up now. Again, what you would agree looks very different from where you were. So that idea of protecting them more, would you agree with right now? Would you agree with kind of sheltering some things more based off of what we've seen in today's climate?
I'll challenge. I think the principles are the same. It's just the practice that's different. The principles, when I was growing up, again, my culture growing up in the 80s in England, very post-Christian de-church culture. I think the presence and influences on this generation are louder and more available, for sure.
on the
For
younger.
sure, because of the internet, and then
Yeah.
because of cell phone access, and then because of, they've got access now to influences in their life that are coming at them more than when I was growing up. They existed, but you kind of had to go there
Yeah.
to be influenced by them. Now the influences are much more 360 around them. So there's difference. But I think the principles of being equipped, protected, sheltered, I think the principles are the same.
Okay,
It's
but
the practice that's changed.
let me live on the sheltered side a little bit.
Okay.
I'm not for certain, but Psalm 46, somewhere in there.
Yep.
Bible says, He alone is my refuge, my place of safety. He is my God, and I trust him. For he will rescue you from any trap and protect you from deadly disease. He will cover you with his feathers. He will shelter you from his wings. So as a Christian, if I'm looking at today's climate with everything that's going on, you pick and choose what you are more focused on than others. And that's what scripture says. Why would I have why would I let him go out to this said party? Why would I let him go to hang out with these said friends? What advantages does that bring when scripturally the Lord, which I'm trying to teach him, let's say he's in Bible school every week, he's at home with me, he's in bed at 8, he only watches Christian films, whatever that may be, however you are choosing your cup of tea of sheltering I'm protecting him as the Lord has told me to protect my child, and he is protecting him by not allowing him out into the world to see what we're seeing now.
Right. So why not let him go out into the world, though?
You tell me.
So to me, again, this is okay. Parenting and all these things are very cultural. They're culturally, the context matters. I think the age matters, the surroundings matter, and each individual child is different. So how you equip your child to live in the world, I don't believe there's a one size fits all. There are some principles, but how you do that is different. So for me as a parent, for me and Mel, we had a clear principle that our role is we would rather them be exposed to environments while they were still living with us, be exposed and navigate and talk about them environments whilst they were with us, because we knew once they leave home, they're going to encounter them. So we would rather equip them, nurture them, coach them, have them be open to that while we had the protection of in our nest.
Yeah, but when they go out to these, excuse me, when they go out to and they're going out and you're kind of showing them the world, right? Are they doing that on their own? Are they, because again, someone would say, where's the protection factor come in if you're letting them out, what if it's too late, right? What if you get in a situation where it's far too gone and now they don't come back? I let my child out to a party, he gets introduced to drugs, and now he's on drugs the rest of his life.
Yeah.
When I could have protected him and not let him out of that.
So it's down to protection. Is protection, is protection don't allow them to ever get in the environment? Or is protection equip them for the environment? So the biblical statement people use then in Proverbs, teach your child in the way that he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. What does that really mean, though? Teach them in the way that they should go? Is it just teach them theology and it'll all be good? Or in the way that they should go with lifestyle? So I believe what we did as parents was we equipped our kids for environments we knew that they were very likely to go into. So one of my sons, 16 years old, gets invited to a party by his friends. He comes to us and says, hey, I've been invited to my friend's party. Now, 16 in England, you're in your senior year of high school. Okay. He's coming to the end of his high school year. We want to go. In fact, I actually think it was the equivalent of a graduation party.
Okay.
He knows that the friend's house he's going to, they're not followers of Jesus at all. And their parents are highly allowing their kids to party.
Right.
So he knew, we said, hey, talk about the party. What's your hesitancy? He's like, yeah, there's likely to be alcohol there. There's likely to be whatever. So we had a choice. We could say, you're not going. Or we could go, so do you want to go? Why do you want to go? And we had this conversation. What's your strategy on when certain things will go a certain way? What's your plan? And how are you going to navigate the environments? What's your values? Blah, blah, blah. We talk about it. We then go, you want to go? I still want to go. This is my friends. Maybe the last time I'll see some of them. Okay, what's your plan?
So
He goes, we drop him off. This is important. We
Yeah.
drop him off at the party. He goes to the party. Okay, we go. All right. Maybe it's got to be inside 2 hours. Inside of 2 hours, maybe less than that, he calls us. Can you come pick me up? Can you come pick me up? Yeah. Probably not wise for me to stay here.
No way.
He calls us. I drive back. It's 10, 15-minute drive back, pick him up. He'd been in the environment. He'd seen it. He knew, yeah, this far, too far. Not for me.
Okay, so you are not against sheltering at certain ages. You're not. That's what you're saying. You're saying the shelter
age-appropriate boundaries.
Yeah, you're saying the shelter is growing, which would get into at what ages do we allow different things to see different things. But that could become argumentative or a question.
Yep.
Speaking on that,
Yep.
biblically, and this is what the internet says, take it or leave it, and what denominations feel, and I don't know if this is correct. But this is what I'm reading. Some denominations, in a biblical term, set a specific age with respect to the age of accountability. So meaning, one denomination sets that age as 7, one denomination sets that age as 8, and another at 12. Meaning they are, let's go back here, a 7 and an 8-year-old, God views them as they are responsible for their actions. So if I scripturally am reading this, God views my 7-year-old responsible for his actions. Why would I send him anywhere? Because I know that he's not. Or what you're saying is, you would send him a 7-year-old somewhere because you know, like what side of the coin, like how to, and again, I don't know where those.
I can lean in.
Yeah.
It's the parents' responsibility. Done. Parents' responsibility at 7. Done. And age-appropriate experiences, age-appropriate things to expose your kids to at 7. Yeah, there's a parent's responsibility. Now, but there's boundaries on that. So some people would say, oh, when is it, I'll go there, when is it the right time to allow your child to watch Star Wars? Now, I know some of you that never. Well, we did. So when's it an appropriate time? Let me give a prime example of this.
Okay.
I don't know how old my kids were. The second wave of Star Wars movies had come out. I think it was the Episode 3, The Revenge of the Sith. I'd been to watch it with some friends. I knew it was coming. My younger boys had been exposed to Star Wars. They're young. They had dress-up Star Wars gears, lightsabers. They would fight. They would, they'd watched Attack of the Clones, the Beast fight, and they would interact and fight. And boys were being boys.
Yeah.
And I encourage that. I like my boys to experience the masculine soul. So we get into all of that. This movie comes out. I've watched it. My younger boys, my 2 youngest, Joel and Zach, they were young, real young.
You watched it beforehand?
I'd watched it beforehand.
Okay.
I take them to the movies. They've got their Jedi capes on and their lightsabers. They walk into the movie theater. I know there's a part in that movie that I thought, this is scary for them. This could be something that could go into their mind and maybe not help them sleep. There's a part that's, that's a bit, these are young boys.
Okay.
But I knew. So I take them to the...
Younger than 7?
They're probably around there.
Okay.
They go in there and we're watching the movie and I know when that scene's about to come on. A minute before that scene's about to come on, I take them out. And I wait. And
you take them out of the theater?
I take them out of the theater and I wait till a moment and I know and then I take them back in when that scene has passed. It's just a really scary kind of a moment where the Emperor, who is fighting Master Windu, Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah.
And there's just a moment in there, and I'm like going, they don't need to see that. And so I protected them. I sheltered them,
Biblically, yeah.
preserved their young minds from that moment, but they still got to saw a whole scene. Now, as they got older, there was a moment they've seen that thing. But at that time, at that moment, as a dad,
Yeah.
I'm like going,
Not
I
now.
don't feel comfortable with this. Took them out, brought them back in. Case in point. That's what you do. I've got a responsibility for the heart and mind of my young child.
So let's say
Now,
I'm
what age? You said the other ages? Like, well, what age are they
7,
accountable?
8. I'm not going to get into the. I mean, and I was, frankly, to be honest, I was a little blown away at some of these, but include 7, 8, and 12 are accountable. God views them accountable for their actions in their book. These other kind of denominations, and it also, but I will say it says other people put the age of 12 as an accountability for their actions because since that was the age that Jesus was when
Right,
he demonstrated
okay.
to
It's
understand.
the age of
it.
understanding,
Right.
yeah,
So
yeah.
would you agree with that? 12
th-
years
I-
old?
and
Because
it's-
Jesus,
Yeah,
right?
It's
Can you account?
so difficult to put a number on it because I know 12-year-olds who are crazy mature. I know 12-year-olds who can hardly feed themselves. You know what I mean? In terms of, case in point, my kids, some of them,
But if
I
you
wouldn't do it, but they could quite easily be home alone, from as in the movie.
At
They-
12?
when they were we wouldn't do it, but I think one of my kids would have survived at 7 for a weekend on his own. He'd have worked it, and I know some of my other boys would not survived half a day, let alone a weekend. They're all different. 12 biblically is this age. This is where the bar mitzvah age is from a Jewish culture. This is this age of understanding. In the Church of England Anglican, that's the age of confirmation. Is 12 an age of understanding where you've got your own mind, where you're able to go, what do I believe now? Like, what do I believe now? But age is a number. It's so difficult to understand. Now, accountability before God, I still think there's parental responsibility and there's a protection that we've got over them. But I can for sure see, I think many of you'll know, there's an age where something kicks into a younger person's mind and they start to form opinions. And they start to form, but what do I believe and why?
So does the shelter happen before that happens? Does the shelter happen? Would you agree that if I'm sheltering my kid before, if I'm hearing what you're saying, there's an age in which that kind of opinion and these things kind of kick on? Let's say that's all the way up until 16. Do I shelter until I see that and then I let it go?
Okay.
Do I?
I think, and I would say biblically, as a parent, you're responsible. As a parent, you've got a responsibility. Jesus is strong when he said, if you cause any of these little ones of mine to stumble, better to put a millstone around his neck and throw him into the lake. Like, Jesus is strong with the accessing of children to come to know him. He's strong on that.
Yeah.
Don't hinder them. But he's also strong on, don't you cause any of these little children to stumble and fall and be bad. So there's a protection there. I can't put an age on it because it's so different. But at the same time, stifling a child so they can't thrive.
Yeah.
I've seen that go so bad.
Yeah.
I've seen, and sadly, and I'll just say it, there are so many parents that I see, and then they're like, oh, we did this and we protected and protected and protected, and they got to whatever 18, they went to college,
Right.
and it was a wreck.
Right.
And it was like, oh, I feel for you, but your stifling example meant that where there is no vision, the people cast off restraint, the people perish. They didn't have a fresh outlook for equipping them for the next season of life. Are you equipping them for that? Helping them in that? You know, and it's a tension, I understand.
Yeah.
But we always had a mindset on, we cannot be with them 24/7. We
Yeah.
cannot be with them 24/7. Are we giving them the tools to navigate things when they come their way?
Let me ask you
And it's a relationship where they can talk about it.
Yeah, let me ask you a super tough question. Let's come to the other side.
Okay.
I'm a parent. I grew up sheltered. I'm a parent and I grew up sheltered. My parents really really protected me from all of the world. And when I got out there, I'm successful. I'm a success story. I'm able to be, let's say, in my mind or wherever I think that I'm really good, or I'm able to be around other people. I'm able to have social. I have friends. I've learned all the things that I've learned. Maybe I didn't do it right when I should have did it younger, but I came from that sheltered environment. Now I'm sheltering my kids, because basically that kind of stuff passes down. I'm sheltering my kids. They're not going to these tour parties. We're listening to only Christian stuff. We're watching only Christian music. We're already there. We're deep in there. They're homeschooled. Whatever ways you want to count that. In what ways would you say, if we're already there, and you're teaching biblical truths, right? How do you get a family that is already maybe sheltering and doesn't really want to get off that to maybe see how do they help unsheltered while keeping some boundaries in place for them? Meaning, like, they're never going to let their child go to a party or blah blah blah. But is there other ways that you would say, okay, you can let the restraints go while still watching a Christian movie, while still going to is that possible? Do they have to see the world, or is there a way to be unsheltered? Because in reality, there's sheltered kids that are success stories and they're great. They're still fine. Like, do you understand what I'm saying? Is there a way for a sheltered child whose parents are not going to give that up? They just believe biblically that's where they're at. Is there a way for them to unloosen the rope a little bit here? Like, let that shelter grow with age while still maintaining watching a movie. They're not going to go to this party. They're never going to go to a restaurant we're drinking.
I think you've mentioned the word. It's boundaries. In the word sheltered and protective, I think it's the word boundaries. And I don't know if I've already said it in this podcast or not, boundaries. I'll say this. I believe we need a boundary, and freedom is living life to its full extent, knowing where the boundaries are.
Yeah.
That's freedom. Freedom isn't no boundaries. That's foolishness.
Right.
So freedom isn't no boundaries. Freedom is knowing where the boundary is and living life to its fullest inside that boundary. Young people will push the boundary. They're not wanting to push the boundary. They're wanting to find out, where is it? Where is the boundary? And they'll sometimes test the boundary. Children will test the boundary. It's for us as parents to always know, when can we move the boundary? When can we stretch the boundary? And to navigate that. And that's an art form, not a science.
Yeah.
Because you've got to understand the individual child and where they're at. So I think it's operating within boundaries, setting those boundaries, but helping them understand the why. I don't think it's good to go, okay, here's the boundary, that's the way it is. Yeah, but why? Because I said so. That doesn't help. That doesn't help, because I said so. Now you've got to have some boundaries. You should just respect me. Okay, we can do better than that, people. We can do better than that. We can go, here's the why, because here's the consequence. Outside that boundary. Here's the consequence outside of that. This I give you. Here's the consequence. Humanity has always done it. Right back to the Garden of Eden, God said to Adam and Eve, you can have all of this. You can eat all of the fruit from all of these trees. This is the abundance of God's will for you, except for this one. What do they go and do? They go and test that one boundary. But with that in mind, I think for us, in this tension of the word sheltered can come across very negative, and I know it can be, I could just think it can be oppressive. And I've just seen a response from people sometimes where they feel that weight of oppression, that when the moment of that's released, they don't know the boundaries. They don't know the other boundaries. We've set the boundaries so tight that when they push beyond that boundary, gone. I would rather go, do you understand?
Yeah,
Do you understand?
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Yep.
Consequence outside that boundary. But inside here, you are free to experience all the fullness that is within here. All this fullness. But know full well that as humans, we always want to, but where are the boundaries? We want to know where they are. It's for us to then help them to understand what's on the other side.
Okay,
and
so
if you cross that boundary, there are consequences.
I guess one of my other questions now is I'm a kid, I'm 18 years old.
Yeah.
I've been sheltered my whole life. I'm listening to this podcast, and I don't want to be sheltered anymore. But I also don't want to go at 100. Get out here and just experience things and not have. What advice do you give to them? What biblical advice do you walk into a party? This is your first time at a party with several worldly things happening at this party. How do you walk in there, and how do you stay long enough? How do you experience what's
Okay,
happening?
I'm going to answer that, but I need to backtrack because in those teen years,
Yeah.
your sphere of influence is really critical. Really, really critical. Who are the people you are doing life with? That is critical. And as parents, I'm just going to say this. Your kids are going to be having other voices speaking into their life. If
Yeah.
I don't want no other voices speaking into their life, I'm just going to say that's foolish. We absolutely gave permission and we wanted our kids to have adult voices, voices who were just a few years older than them, young adult voices speaking into their life. We wanted that for them. We had people speak into our kids' lives with the same set of values that we did. But because they heard it from this other young adult,
Of course,
and not from us, they went, "Oh well, he cool, he's cool." He said I should do this. I'm taking it on, and I'm like, I don't care who said it.
right.
Well, we said that all along. Why don't you listen to us? Don't go there. Allow that influence into his life.
Right.
I'm going. Parenting's a team sport.
Absolutely.
I'm
Village.
wanting
Takes a village.
multiple voices to come in and around and influence my kids' lives. So that's why I'm saying I think the value of a youth pastor or a small group leader in the life of your teenager, gold. The knowing that you've got a 14-year-old, have them hang around with a Jesus-following 19-year-old. Let them see what that life is. Our kids were exposed to teenagers when they were kids and older ones in our house all the time. I wanted them to see good role models. I wanted them to hear the story of the 17-year-old messing it up.
Yeah.
I wanted them to be around that and have that influence so that when they do get to 18 and they're going out into these things, it's not a strange world.
Yeah.
It's not a whatever. Now, boundaries, set boundaries. You yourself at 18, it's time.
Yeah.
I'll speak to the guys. It's time. Who are you? Who do you want to be? And what is, and I'll just say it, who is Jesus to you, really? Who is Jesus to you, really? If it's just it's just a culture, is he your king? Do you trust him? Are you learning his words, living his ways, and loving like him? Are you going to make mistakes? Yeah. But you need people around you who can help and support. Will they hold you accountable? I kind of like that phrase, but at the same time, I'm like, who are you in relationship with? Who are you in relationship with? That in itself. Who can I be honest with?
Yeah.
Who do I know that I can say something to and they won't reject me? They won't reject me. Knowing I see it all the time. So I'm almost like saying, when they get to 18, if they've not had these conversations, it's kind of too late.
So then what I mean, that's what I'm saying. Then what happens? If it's too late.
If you are the 18-year-old, I'm going, who are you doing life with? Get around you.
So it's the
who are you doing
community
life with?
aspect, yeah.
Your community is critical. It is critical. I mean,
But is it critical for that community to only be Jesus followers? Or do they need to, if they've been sheltered and that's all they've seen, how does that, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
How do they go right
Yeah.
back? And I feel like that community, again,
Yeah.
something for me, I want that community to be church followers and unchurch followers.
Yeah,
That's
I
the
agree.
life of Jesus.
I
It wasn't just one set of people.
Jesus was called the friend of sinners.
Yeah.
That was one of his things.
Absolutely.
And the Pharisees hated him for it.
Yeah.
But we're to be like Jesus,
So
not like the Pharisees. So we
back
have
to that 18-year-old question. Who
Yeah.
is this around? Does he surround himself with people
Yeah.
that is it both sides?
I think he needs to know who am I being influenced by, and to be valuable there. There are some things for the non-Jesus follower they can go, that dude got it. That dude got this part of life better right than this other person. It's
Yeah.
a tension.
Yeah.
It's a tension.
That's where
and
we're
it
doing
needs
it.
dialogue. But I would say this. I mean, this morning I do a men's gathering called Into the Storm, 6 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. I got some guys. I got a guy who's been the last 3 weeks in a row. We only just started 3 or 4 weeks ago. 3 weeks in a row. He's driving 35 minutes across town from college to get there for 6 a.m. in the morning. He's a freshman. He's 18 years old. He's getting up and he's driving and he's there. I met with him today. Afterwards, we got coffee, and he was just like, the reason I'm doing this is because I need men in my life. My dad was absent in my life. His dad passed when he was 14.
Wow.
And in the years before that, it wasn't good. And without getting into too much personal information. But he was like, I know I need men of other generations in my life. So he of his own decision, I want my life to go well. He's driving at that time in the morning across because he knows in that environment there's going to be other guys his age in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s in that room. Yeah. He wants it. He's just like, and he's even speaking to me, help me. Help me in life. What do I need to be doing? But he's making good choices of who to be around.
And it's funny because if we were to even go back off to last episode, now he's walking in a room of Christian followers with different views of politics, different views of all different sort of views, right? And just opening himself up to, you know, and then while still being surrounded about the one truth of, you know, why he's there. So
we've got guys in that room whose marriages are a complete mess, whose marriages have broken down completely. We've got guys who are engaged, guys who've been married for 50 years in that room. We've got guys who are highly successful in business and guys who've gone bankrupt. We've got guys in that room who've been battling with addictions, still are battling with addictions. They're all over, like all over, and they're in the room. I want him in that room. Yeah. I'm like, let's stop faking it and pretending that everything's all neat and tidy. I'm like, let's get real and raw with one another and honest. But I think that environment, and speaking to the parents out there, you've got to have tilled the soil of your children to grow in that's an environment that, they're going to, you can protect them from the storm, but you could also go, hey, the storm's coming. What do you think you could do to protect yourself in this situation?
Yeah, you're absolutely saying boundaries. This is really about stretching to me is what I see. That like when we, you know, to kind of wrap this up, you know, sheltered versus unsheltered, it's not even really more or less it's this versus that, which it clearly explains life in the middle. It will never be one versus the other, right? But this idea of sheltered versus unsheltered is just stretching it, and it's going to be different when it stretches for every home. It's gonna look different age-wise when you stretch, and then there's going to be sets in place for the parents to stretch as well.
Let me speak into that. When you said that, it came to mind.
Yeah.
I know maybe for parents of preteens or teens or whatever, it's like, I don't want my child being influenced by the wrong kind of kids. I don't want that influence. Yeah. I'll just say it. We've had families leave our church because we intentionally want unchurched first-generation believers or not believers yet kids in our programs. We want them. We want to reach the lost. Yeah. And so those kids start coming to our youth programs, and they haven't got a home life of these biblical values, and they're talking different, thinking different, being different. And now the church kids, the parents find out, ooh, what kind of kids go to that youth group? I don't like that. I don't want my kids rubbing shoulders with that kind of kid. Oh, that kid, they go to that school. I deliberately don't let my kid go to that school because I don't want my kid hanging out with those kids. Yeah. And so those parents will come and go, hey, I think we should fix the youth ministry. I'm going, nope, absolutely not. We are here to seek and to save that which was lost. That's what Jesus said he came for. We are to be on that mission. So it's like, no.
But but you're not saying that the youth group, right? Run rampant. There's boundaries still there.
Of course there's boundaries.
I just want to make sure I keep saying
kids are like, well, but my kids are becoming friends with that kind of kid. And I'm going, so we don't want them influencing us. So because we don't want those kids influencing our kids, we're going to remove them from that. That happens. I've had that conversation many a time. Yeah. Makes my blood boil. However, what I would say is, let's flip that. Why aren't we then, who are in this blessed situation to have your kids grow up in a Christ-following home, Why aren't we equipping them so that they can influence those kids?
They took the first
Why-
step to come.
Yes. Why can't they be salt and light to them?
Yeah.
Why can't they represent, hey, come imitate me as I imitate Christ, Paul said. Why can't we have that influence? That's how we taught our kids.
Yeah.
We taught our kids that you could be an influence to them. Yes, they do have a broken situation where they're in. Love on them. Be patient with them. And we have seen, in England, we saw kids come to know Jesus, and it's because the kids in our group who were blessed with a godly home
Yeah.
were like loving on those other kids, loving on them and saying, hey, this is how you can, do life. Get them round to our house. Have meals with our family.
Yeah.
Come and be with us. Come and be that salt and light for them. And I'm like, this is an opportunity. Don't just protect and preserve and draw up the bridge and it's the big bad world out there. I'm like, Jesus said, go. Well, there's an equipping to go.
Yeah.
Oh, and in the world and of the world and all of that, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, come on, we can be an influence on them. So from the parents who are just scared, I don't want my kids being influenced by the dark side, I'm like going, well, you're the ones who are called to be light.
Yeah.
And shouting at the darkness doesn't change it. Taking light into it changes it. Mm. So that's our posture of all of that. And I know people, oh, well, and where you choose your kids to be educated and all of that, that's a parenting choice. That's your family value, and so, but do you know what your family value is? Do you know why you're doing that? Is it because you're scared, parents? I get it.
Yeah.
It's
a different world. I mean, we do have to, it's a completely different
But are you
world.
making your decisions based on fear or based on faith? Are you making your decisions based on what could go wrong, or are you making your decisions based on, but here we're called to go into this situation and be light? How are you navigating that? This is a big opportunity for us. There are.
I mean,
yeah.
We gotta really get, but man, this doesn't seem like this is you have. I'm gonna say a strong statement here. You have understanding for the shelteredness, but you don't. It seems like you don't. You're going to stand on the side on this one.
Okay, in my generation, I know too many people my age whose parents are nowhere near following Jesus, not even close to following Jesus, and they grew up in the church. And I'm not saying this is the reason, but some of them were. They protected their kids so much, and they were loving them like crazy.
Yeah.
But when the kids got to that point of I'm out of that now, freedom.
Yeah. Spiral.
And then, sadly, before they know it, they're making decisions and choices, and they think they're too. I mean, that breaks my heart to see that. Breaks my heart to see that. And don't get me wrong, parenting-wise, we have made a gazillion mistakes.
Sure, yeah.
A gazillion mistakes, but...
Man, life in the middle of sheltered versus unsheltered. Again, these topics, for this season are just, there is no right or wrong answer. We're trying to show that me and Des can have a conversation about something on either side of the spectrum, hear each other, and still walk away going, because I want to make sure that if you do believe strongly that your child should not be attending and parties or whatever that is, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I just think that there's ways for you to stretch that out so that the child can be a part of this world and not be closed off from it.
Have conversation with your kids.
Yeah.
When they say, I want to watch this, my friend just watched that, have a conversation about it. Don't come down and go, well, we don't.
Yeah.
Let them learn.
Yeah, experience.
Encourage questions. That's where you learn.
Yeah.
Encourage them that when they fail, they're going to fail forward. Let's help you get up. Fail forward. Yeah. Let's get up. That, to me, is just a better way of going about it. That's in my opinion. But what do I know?
No, it's great. That was a great discussion. I had fun. I was really excited about this episode and just how that was going to go. But I hope this was helpful to you. Always is, as you know, feel free to send questions, email, or comment below. Life in the middle. Man, I love this podcast.
It's good, man.
In the middle.
Whew, I'm sweating now.
Yeah, I know. We'll see you next Wednesday for next episode. I don't know what we're going to talk about, but it will be something in the middle.
Great.
See you later.
Take care, guys.